angle theta is. Now, today we're going to go ahead and be given a specific measurement. That measurement is it's going to be specified on the triangle. And with that measurement, we're going to go ahead and use that information to then find that missing side. Okay, so something that we went over last time, we were introduced to sine of theta, which is opposite over hypotenuse. We were also introduced to cosine, adjacent over hypotenuse. And the last one, tangent of theta, opposite over adjacent. And I give you guys a little phrase to memorize all three of them. Now we're going to go ahead and put all that together. And I'm going to go ahead and make sure you guys memorize all the items here, because we're going to see now our phrases together. So sine, easy way or an easier way to memorize it or to remember what it represents. We're going to go ahead and say that it's three little letters, S-O-H. We're going to go ahead and say the word so, right? S-O-H, so. S represents sine, O represents opposite, H represents hypotenuse. We're going to go ahead and do the same to cosine. This time we're going to go ahead and use the little phrase ka. C represents cosine, A represents adjacent, and H represents hypotenuse. So we have so, ka. All right, let's go ahead and go on to the last one. The last one we're going to go ahead and say not T-O-A, we're going to go ahead and say it as TOA. Tangent, opposite, adjacent. So SOHCAHTOA, 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 SOHCAHTOA. So you're going to go ahead and repeat that over and over and over again in your head so that you can memorize or just easily remember where exactly the parts of each, depending on which function you're using, where they belong. So for example, sine, so opposite over hypotenuse, ka, cosine, adjacent over hypotenuse, toa, tangent, opposite over adjacent. So SOHCAHTOA, SOHCAHTOA, SOHCAHTOA. So you can go ahead and repeat that in your head over and over again to make sure that you memorize it. All right, so I'll go ahead and let you guys copy this down so you can have it in your notes. And I'm going to go ahead and now show you guys a new strategy on how to memorize or remember this new little acronym, or basically a mnemonic device, because we have a phrase here. All right, so here we go.
1, 2, 3, 4. SOHCAHTOA, 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 SOHCAHTOA. Sine, opposite hypotenuse, sine, opposite hypotenuse, sine, opposite hypotenuse, cosine, adjacent hypotenuse, cosine, adjacent hypotenuse, cosine, adjacent hypotenuse, tangent, opposite adjacent, tangent, opposite adjacent, tangent, opposite adjacent. Along sides of hypotenuse, and the other two sides depend on which angle you're focusing on. Pick one angle and look. There's one side that's the opposite. You can clearly see that there's also an adjacent side. Sine, opposite hypotenuse, sine, opposite hypotenuse, sine, opposite hypotenuse, cosine, adjacent hypotenuse, cosine, adjacent hypotenuse, cosine, adjacent hypotenuse, tangent, opposite adjacent, tangent, opposite adjacent, tangent, opposite adjacent. SOHCAHTOA, 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 SOHCAHTOA. Every third.
So you can watch more of his videos, but this is one of the catchiest ones that I've seen so far. You have access to it on your Nearpod lesson. If you guys go onto this side, you should be able to see automatically the video. So you can watch it at any time you like to. So if you guys need to rewatch the video and just remember, just get that song stuck in your head once again. And I hope it gets at least a little bit stuck in your head so you can go ahead and do the assignment for today and then forget about the song. All right, so let's go ahead and go on to our first example. We have three examples, and we're going to go ahead and go on through them. The first example, we have to solve the missing side of a right triangle using sine, cosine, or tangent. We're going to go ahead and round up to our nearest hundredth, and we have some given information here. I'm going to go ahead and give you guys a minute to write this down in your notebook so you guys can have this. So let me give you guys a minute. Recording, sorry. Toa. So I'm going to go ahead and write that. SOHCAHTOA. Right. Now, from the given information, I'm going to go ahead and just check mark to see which information highlights here. So I have opposite, sine uses opposite, tangent uses opposite. I also have a hypotenuse, sine uses hypotenuse, cosine uses hypotenuse. So the reason why I check mark my sides here, because I want to figure out exactly which function I'm going to use, which of the ratios. Now notice that sine is the one that has the two check marks. So therefore, I'm going to go ahead and use sine for this particular example. All right, so how do I write my, my ratio? I'm going to go ahead and write it like this. I'm going to go ahead and write sine, S-I-N. I'm going to go ahead and write, instead of theta, I'm going to go ahead and write 30 degrees equals, now it equals what? Opposite over hypotenuse. So let's go ahead and write that fraction. Opposite in this case is x. And hypotenuse in this case is 8. So there I created that ratio. I created that little function that I wanted, that little equation that I wanted. And now I'm going to go ahead and solve for that missing side, which is x. Now, you might be thinking, Miss Vasquez, I don't know what sine 30 means. It's okay. We're going to go ahead and figure it out today. Don't be scared. Now, we're going to do some manipulation of the equation before we can go ahead and figure out what sine of 30 is exactly. What am I going to do? I'm going to see what I have here. I have sine of 30 equals x over 8. I'm going to rewrite, not exactly totally rewrite it, but I'm just going to see how to solve for x. There's two ways I can do it. I can go ahead and multiply by 8 on both sides, and therefore I have x available on one side, or I can go ahead and create a proportion and cross multiply. I'm going to go ahead and create a proportion just because we're going to go ahead and have different versions of this type of equations written in the next example. So I want you guys to get used to doing cross multiplication. So I'm going to go ahead and do cross multiplication here, which is 1 times x is x, and 8 times sine of 30. I'm going to go ahead and write it this way. 8, my multiplication symbol, and sine of 30 degrees. Okay, so my goal here was to isolate that x, right? To solve for this variable here. Now we're going to go ahead and get into our fun stuff, right? Our fun stuff is now to simplify our right side. 8 times sine of 30. Now, what exactly is sine of 30? Sine of 30, it's basically representing a ratio, and it's given or it's solved for by given basic triangles. So basically, it's solved by given triangles that have the legs the side of 1, and then the hypotenuse is square root of 2, right? So those are right triangles, and from there it's calculated. I'm not going to make you guys calculate what exactly sine of 30 is here or in this course. So what I'm going to do is that I'm going to go ahead and give you guys two resources. One is a table. It's called a trigonometry table. And two, I'm going to go ahead and show you guys how to use the scientific calculator and the functions on there as well. Okay, so first things first, let me go ahead and give you guys the table. And I'm going to go ahead and make it available in the chat box. Let me go ahead and change my tool. Here it is. So if you guys see the chat box, you guys should be able to see a document that I shared. This is sine, cosine, and tangent table from the degrees from 0 to 360. Now let me go ahead and clear this out. Remember that we had sine of 30, okay? Now, how do we read this table? You guys have access to it also on your Nearpod lesson. If you guys go on one more slide, you guys should be able to see this there as well. Now, how do I read this table? So I'm given degrees, and I'm given exactly what that degree is, what its sine value is, what its cosine value is, and what its tangent value is. So we can go ahead and use this table and get that information exactly from there. And again, it represents a ratio from a basic triangle. So here is degree. We're looking for degree of 30 and its sine value. So its sine value, if you notice here, let me go ahead and focus on more and zoom it in. Let me see if I can. There you go. And here is sine of 30 degrees. Notice the sine of 30 represents 0.5555. I mean, sorry, 0.5000 and on, right? So it's basically 0.5. Sine of 30 is 0.5. So I'm going to go ahead and use that information now. So I use the information on the table. I can come back to my my work over here. Let me go ahead and use my draw it. And I can write x equals 8 times 0.5. And 8 times 0.5 gives me 4. Thank you, 4 units. So the measurement of x in this particular case is 4 units. So there you go. We use sine of 30. We found out that sine of 30 is 0.5. We then multiply it by 8 and then solve for, we'll simplify and we get 4 units, which is x here in this case. So this is by using the table, okay? So the table, we go back. We look at our degree. If we're using sine, then we go to the sine column and we figure out which one it is. It keeps on moving. All right, let me go back to the other one. Okay, let me go ahead and download an image of this so you guys can have it. Any questions on this one? No questions so far. Okay. And the next example, I'm going to go ahead and show you guys how to use a calculator. Okay. Give me a thumbs up if you're ready. Thank you. I see more thumbs up. Let me know, guys. Thank you, Joseph. Thank you. Thank you, Alicia. Okay. Let me go ahead and clear this out. I can come back to this at the end of class if you guys like me to, and I can go ahead and explain it more in depth if you want me to, or in a different way. Okay, so here you should have now the PDF viewer on your Nearpod lesson where you have access to that if you want to have access to that. Other than that, you can go ahead and use it by the Google Drive that I sent you. Now, next example, example number 2. We have the same exact problem. Instructions meaning to solve for the missing side of the right triangle using sine, cosine, or tangent, round to the nearest 100. Okay, so again, let's go ahead and analyze first what information is given. Before I continue, let me go ahead and give you a minute to copy this down. Okay, so let me go ahead and continue. Let me bring my tools back up here. Okay, so let's go ahead and now analyze. We're going to go ahead and first focus on the angle. The position of the angle is what's most important here, because then from there we can go ahead and see which one's which, right? Which side is which. So here is our theta. Our theta here is 45 degrees. Now, according to this angle and its position, we see that we have a side that is curving to the left or curving up, and another side that is straight across from our right angle. So can somebody tell me what 6 represents? What type of side is 6?
The tangent.
Yes, there you go. It's adjacent. There you go. Adjacent. And let's see y. What is y?
The hypotenuse.
There you go, the hypotenuse. All right. So we were able to see that. Let me go ahead and write my little phrase here. SOHCAHTOA. All right. So let me go ahead and do my check marks now. Let's see. I have adjacent. Cosine uses adjacent. Tangent uses adjacent. Let's see. Hypotenuse. Sine uses hypotenuse. Cosine uses hypotenuse. And we notice that we have 2 check marks for cosine. So we're going to go ahead and use cosine in this example. All right, so let me go ahead and bring up my tool. I'm going to go ahead and write it like this. I'm using cosine, so I'm going to go ahead and write cosine. Then my angle measurement, 45 degrees, equals adjacent over hypotenuse. Adjacent over hypotenuse. All right, so let's go ahead and write our ratio. Adjacent here in this case is 6. And hypotenuse here in this case is y. All right, I'm going to pause a little bit because what you are about to notice or see is that in our previous example, our variable or that unknown side was written on the numerator. This time we have our variable or that unknown side in the denominator. So we're going to go ahead and do a little extra step in order for us to isolate that variable. Okay, nothing to do with the measurement of cosine of 45. It's just, again, more steps to isolate that variable. Okay. Now, I'm going to continue to do our beautiful proportion. Okay. I write my cosine of 45 underneath 1 so that I can go ahead and do our beautiful cross multiplication. All right, in this case, I have, let's see, I'm going to go ahead and write y first. So y times cosine of 45. I'm going to go ahead and write it like this. Y, multiplication sign, cosine 45 degrees equals 6. Okay. Now, I still don't have my y isolated, meaning that it's just on one side by itself. So I have to do one extra step. This is the extra step. Notice that the operation that's happening here is multiplication. What is the inverse of multiplication?
Division.
Division. So I have to divide both sides by cosine of 45. So on my left side, it cancels. And I'm left with y equals, which is what I wanted. I wanted to isolate that y, equals 6 over cosine of 45 degrees. All right, make a note to yourselves. This example has the variable on the denominator. The previous example had the variable on the numerator. This one has it in the denominator. So the steps are going to be, there's going to be that extra step, which is dividing by cosine, right? Or whatever that ratio that it was, so sine or tangent. In this case, it's cosine. Okay, so I said I was going to go ahead and use the calculator this time. So what I'm going to go ahead and do, I'm going to go ahead and pull up my decimals calculator because that is free and it's available for us, for all of us online. So let me go ahead and clear this up. I'm going to go ahead and bring this back. Don't worry. Let me just clear this. Let's see, decimals. If you go to decimals.com, you'll be brought to this page. You're not using the graphing calculator. You're using the scientific calculator, which you can find in your math tools. Or if you have a scientific calculator on your computer, you're more than welcome to use that one as well. Okay, so now look at your calculator. You should be able to notice that you have 3 functions here. We're going to be able to use them today. Yay. So now you know what they represent and how you use them. So how do we write this out? Let's see. We had 6 divided by cosine of 45. So I'm going to go ahead and write 6 divided by, I'm going to go ahead and write my function cosine and 45. Make sure that you close your parentheses because some calculators do not work or do not function if you not close that parentheses, meaning that you're including the whole entire angle there, okay? So once you do that, you'll be able to have your solution. And it's said to be, to round it up to the nearest hundredth. So in this case, it's 8.4852 and so on and so forth. So we're going to go ahead and leave it at 8.48 since 5 is the next number to the right. We're going to go ahead and round up. So it's 8.49 in this case. Let me go back. So if we simplify, we've now used a calculator and we have y equals, let me go ahead and write the whole item out here, 6 and then divided by cosine of 45. Let me go ahead and write what cosine of 45 is exactly. What if I just wanted to look for cosine of 45? I can go ahead and do so. Let me go ahead and clear all. You write cosine 45, close your parentheses, and it's 0.7071. So let me go back over here. Undo. Do I have my tool? 0.7071. And it simplifies to y equals 8.49 units. Either way, if you decide to use the table or to use the calculator, either way would give you the same response or the same solution. If you were to use a table, again, cosine of 45 degrees would give you the same on the table. You can come back over here. Sorry for changing it too much from back and forth. I'll go back to the other one. 45, and here you see it. Ah. There you go, 45, 0.7017. I mean, 0.7071. There you go. So either using the table or using the calculator would give you the same response in this case. Let me go ahead and download a picture so you guys can have it. Any questions so far?
So pretty much we just go back and look at the table for the tan.
Mhm.
Just multiply and
And then, yeah, simplify from there on. So the table's pretty much going to give you what the result is for cosine of whatever angle or tangent of whatever angle or sine of whichever angle. So I gave you guys a table of from 0 to 360 from the three functions, the three ratios. So it's up to you if you want to use a calculator, if you want to use a table. There's no, I'm not limiting you guys to using either or. Okay, so let me go ahead and clear this out. Okay, you ready for the last one? All right, last one. I'm going to go ahead and let you guys set it up for me. Let's see, example number 3. This time we have our angle is 55. We have y and 10 that are given here. I'm going to go ahead and give you guys a minute, and then I'll ask you guys, what do I write? All right, I hope you guys had enough time to write it down. Let's see, here's our angle. This time is 55. Here's theta. Here's our angle. Let's see, from here, I have to draw an arrow across, and I have to draw an arrow right next to our angle. Let's see. What type of side is y?
adjacent.
Close. Y.
Oh, forgot.
If you have to go across your triangle, it's what? There you go. Thank you. Opposite. Now 10, if I have to go right next to it, kind of curve my arrow to go next, it's what? Now it's adjacent. So I have those two type of sides. Let me go ahead and write my phrase. Oops, my pen is not cooperating. And then TOA. So in this case, I have opposite and I have adjacent. So I notice that tangent has both. So I'm going to go ahead and write my ratio now. So I have tangent. My angle here is 55 degrees equals, what do I write? How does my fraction look like? How does my ratio look like?
Y over 10.
There you go, y over 10. Why y over 10? Because it's opposite over adjacent. Opposite over adjacent. All right, so let's go ahead and solve for y. I'm going to do my magic trick, which is writing a 1 underneath my function here of tan of 55 or tangent 55, and then do cross multiplication. All right, who can tell me what to write next?
Ten times 1255.
Yes, so it's 10 times tan of 55. Ooh, 10, not 10. Equals what?
Y.
There you go, y. So let's not forget our other side as well. So y equals 10 times tan of 55. And notice here that whenever you're writing this in the calculator, if you guys decide to use the calculator, always write the side first, then your function, or then tan, or then sine or cosine. Because if it happens where you forget to close your parentheses in your calculator, it's going to take it as an angle measurement. So it's going to say that it's 5,510 degrees, which is not, right? So make sure that you always write the side before your measurement if it's multiplying and not dividing. Okay. All right. So let's go ahead and see. Let's simplify this. Oops. Let me choose my red. Y equals 10 times and tan of 55. I'm going to go ahead and use that table so that I can see what it equals. And then I'm going to go ahead and show you guys how to do the calculator. Go ahead and clear. 55 is down here. And tangent was the third column. Yeah, tangent is the third column. So third column all the way down to 55 right here. Why does it do that? It moves a lot. There you go. So it's 1.4281. 1.4281. 1.4281. 1.4281. $1.4281. Y equals, multiply it by 10. Well, it moves just one space over, 14.28. And we drop the 1 because we round to the nearest hundredth. Don't forget to write units. There's no measurement specified here, so you can write units whenever there's no measurement. $14.28. All right. Any questions? No questions. Okay, so you have 10 problems to practice on. You can go ahead and use either the calculator or the table to figure out what the measurements are, depending on which one you're using. It doesn't tell you which ones you're going to use, so you're going to go ahead and figure out where the position of your given sides are, and then from there determine which function or which ratio to use the best. Obviously, you want to use the one with all the information given, and have fun.